like noting your energy levels on a 1 to 10 scale, like starting to keep track of it that way, like keep track of your mood swings. What happened? Why did you get so mad? What happened? Why did you cry so hard? Like, is that normal for you to cry that hard if you drop your cup of coffee in the morning? Like,
we're interested. What did you eat for breakfast this morning?
well, I do a little of that fasting situation, Max.
Intermittent fasting.
I think
That's a thing.
I
Has
don't.
that permeated the Hollywood, the movie star set?
You can't renew your SAG membership unless you're fasting.
Really?
Just kidding. But I started doing it because I started working with this health coach named Daphne Yavich, and she has her business is called Doing Well. And she likes to have a green juice for breakfast. So usually I have green juice for breakfast.
That's cool.
And coffee.
It's a bunch of kale, spinach.
No spinach.
No spinach.
We make it every day, my husband and I, and we always make the same one because I could eat the same thing every day.
Yeah.
Kale, an apple, lemons from our lemon tree, jalapeno, ginger, turmeric, and celery.
Sounds good.
And then it's pretty tasty. And then if there's shit, and can I swear on your podcast?
Yes.
If there's shit in the fridge that we haven't, that's gonna be gross soon, we'll put that in the juicer too.
How do you feel like fasting affects because you're a high performance individual, right? Your
yes.
attention on set, everything. It's a high demand job, right? Do you find that fasting helps? Has that been?
I haven't noticed a huge difference, but I do know if I have to be at work at 5 a.m., I can't go till noon. So I will have fruit.
Yeah.
And then if it's a really involved scene, or if I start to get hungry, I eat. I just will have something else. But for the most part, I can usually make it to lunch.
That's cool.
Yes.
Well, we connected because you have this dope new company that you're getting behind called Wile, which is all about hormone health, but it's specifically targeted to women above 40. Is that correct?
Yeah, for sure.
That's an underserved community. I don't know if that's the right word.
Non-served, I feel like sometimes. But yes, definitely underserved. I got involved with Wile through my friend Corey Sholabo, who is a founder. I'm a founding partner. I think that's cool. But mostly I was kind of going through, I was having I was frustrated because I was feeling like I was having symptoms that you hear when people talk about perimenopause, which this is years ago, just in my early 40s, which is kind of where we kind of at Wile recommend women start thinking about this stuff. And I was at work and I was shooting another TV show. I'm just on a series of failed television shows. But anyway, I'll talk about that on a different podcast. But I was which is why when I read the introduction to your book just now, I was like, shit,
no.
Brain fog. I was like, I'm having brain fog.
Oh, no.
I was having brain fog. I was cranky. I wasn't sleeping. I was gaining weight and not able to lose it quickly. Sometimes you have a fun weekend and then you can take it off pretty easily. That is not the case anymore. But all these symptoms were starting to happen to me and I didn't really know what they were. So my on-set costumer, this really cool chick named Susie, she was like, oh, you have perimenopause. And I was like, go fuck yourself. I'm not 100. And Susie's really cool. She worked on Sons of Anarchy. So you can't really tell her to fuck off because she would just punch you.
Wow.
Anyway, she's tough, but she was like, yeah, you're experiencing all these symptoms. I was like, no, I'm 40. I'm not. And then when I started to do a little Googling.
Super young. I'm about to, I'm not a woman, but I'm turning 40.
Yeah.
And,
but the thing is these symptoms, they sort of they can start for a woman, even in your 30s, they can start in your 40s, they can start in your 50s. Every single actual body is different and everyone's chemical makeup is different and everyone's lifestyle is different and where everyone lives is different. And all these things, as you know, contribute to our physiological makeup. So when I started to think I wonder if I am having, and at the time I wasn't really comfortable saying perimenopause. And I think that is a tough word. That word in menopause is hard for a lot of women to say and to talk about, but really it's just a hormonal shift. So if it's more comfortable for people to think of it that way, you have a hormonal shift when you get pregnant. You have a hormonal shift after you give birth. You have a hormonal shift after you stop breastfeeding, when you're going to breastfeed, like when you get your period, when, you stop getting your period, which is what Wile is about. But like these things happen. And by the way, men have hormonal shifts too. We all do. But, women, it's just bigger, and I feel like it affects our life more because the things that happen when your hormones shift actually affect like your day-to-day, meaning like you're sleeping less, so you're cranky, your libido, it just dips or just nosedives depending. And,
Wow.
that can definitely fuck with your relationships, that the mood swings, the weight gain really can affect your self-esteem. For me, what started to hurt my self-esteem was the brain fog. And that was the first thing I really noticed, because I noticed that like I'm like sharp and snappy and I can kind of talk to anyone. And I would be at parties talking to strangers and I wouldn't be able to think of the word that I wanted to use for something. And it was so frustrating, and it affected my self-esteem because I started to feel like a dum-dum. And I'm like, I'm not dumb.
Wow.
I'm pretty smart. So
Super.
I was like, this is affecting my self-esteem, and it was bumming me out, obviously. And then I started to ask doctors about it. So first I asked my OBGYN. She's like, no, you're fine. When did your mom have menopause? I was like, my mom says 50. She's like, yeah, then you don't even have to worry about it. And I'm like, okay. And then I asked my general practitioner, who I've been going to forever, who I love, and I asked him about it. He had the same answer. Well, what about your mom? I'm like, 50. He's like, yeah, you're fine. Then I ended up having to get a different OBGYN and new guy. I asked him about it a year later at my next appointment. He's like, no, you're fine.
Wow.
And he's like, if you're feeling a hormonal shift, why don't we just put you back on the pill? I'm like, I don't want to go on the fucking pill. I was on the pill from when I was like 15 to 35.
Wow.
I'm married. My husband had a vasectomy. Like, I'm not going on the fucking pill. Like, they're always trying to do that. I go back then for my next annual exam, talk to my GP again. He's like, well, we could try some antidepressants if you want. And I'm like, so the medical community has to offer me the pill or antidepressants. I'm like, there's got to be something else.
Did you know that 1 in 4 women over the age of 40 are on antidepressant drugs?
I'm pretty sure that I would be on antidepressants if I didn't start like really digging into this. And I didn't know that fact, but it doesn't surprise me. And I go to therapy. I have a therapist, and she is so against them she's for them if you need them, but she's like, I just don't like to see people just going on them if they don't have to.
Right.
And I don't think you should have to for menopause.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, I'm not a doctor. If someone is like in a really bad place, clinically depressed, obviously, like, please go on them.
No stigma, yeah, on drugs.
And I think, like, I went on them for a spell when I was in college. I had a really bad breakup, okay? Anyway.
I think we've all been there.
I think we've all been there.
Do you think you would have gotten a different response from your doctors had they had been women?
2 of the 3 of the OBs were women.
Wow.
And both of them said that.
And still like, don't worry about it until you're 50.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so because of like the way health insurance works, yay, America, I get like one visit a year unless I have a problem with my OBGYN, my gynecologist. So it was like 1 year I asked the lady doctor, then I get switched to a dude doctor. I ask him the next year. He's like the birth control pill guy. Then I was like, fuck that. I'm going back to a woman. I find this new woman. I go to her. Same thing with her. Like, when did your mom? You're fine. Do you want to go on the pill? No. So I'm like, wow, this is crazy. This is even women who don't want to talk about it. And I even chose a younger doctor because I was thinking maybe the younger doctors like are they're getting more education in medical school. Maybe this is something like that they're starting to teach more, because it didn't seem like they really were, or that some of my older physicians like cared that much about. I actually chose her because on Twitter, she said she really loved Taylor Swift. And I was like, well, at least we'll have something to talk about besides my vagina.
Who doesn't love Taylor Swift also?
I think not Americans. Just kidding. But I didn't get the answers I wanted from her. I didn't feel like I got taken seriously by her. And so then this year, I finally found one that I love.
Wow.
And she was like totally into it. And she brought it up to me when she looked at my age. and she had some YouTube videos she directed me to that she made, but she was like, why don't you make another appointment and you'll come back and we'll talk about this, which I have not had time to do yet. But I just liked that she was like, this is a bigger topic than what we're doing right now. So come back and we'll talk about it because we have lots to cover about that. So this was after, by the way, I met her after I started working with Wile. So I'm excited to get to dig into that. But I was just surprised at so now we're looking at like 4 doctors that I saw that didn't really have much to say about it,
That's
except
insane.
like go on pills or like ask me about my mom, who my mom is 76. She lives in Ohio. She didn't like grow up with cell phones. She didn't grow up in a big city with lots of pollution. Like there's so many factors that are involved in how we can have different physical bodies than our parents. Like how can a doctor just write it off that easily?
100%. So that, I mean, you go in with all these complaints and what do they do? Like draw labs? Or, I mean, I've never been to an OBGYN, but
you should go.
I should go. That would be.
It's great fun.
Is it? I bet.
One time my phone rang when I was like feet in the stirrups and the guy, he was like, you can get it if you want. I'm like, I don't know. Nobody wants me talking to them while this is going on.
Oh man.
Yeah. But yes, they do take your blood, but so for a woman, like in order to get like a very accurate sense of where your hormones go, you would kind of need to do a blood test like every day for the 28 days of your cycle if you're on a 28-day cycle. So like, because our hormones change all the time. So you kind of need to test every day. And then there's some tests where it's like you could go on like the 3rd day of your cycle or 2 days before you get, there's just lots of different ones. I'm actually in the middle of doing a hormone test right now that is 28 days and it's a saliva test. So I have been spitting into a vial like every 4 days. I have a lot of frozen, like vials of frozen saliva in
your freezer?
My freezer right now. Yeah. My husband's like, how long does this go on for? I'm like, what? Your frosty beer mugs are in the like
right next to the ice cubes.
I did put them all into he likes to freeze pint glasses.
Wow.
So when he pours his beer in them,
it's a nice reminder of
makes him feel fancy. Yeah.
Of what you're up to.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, we have a large female listener base.
Yes.
And a lot of them, you know, they're millennials.
Yeah.
So they might not be there yet, but they have moms.
Well, I still think of the millennials being 20, but now they're like,
oh yeah, no.
I mean, my friend just turned 40, and he's like he's like the oldest.
He's a millennial. Yeah.
Right?
I think it's like 80s and 90s kids.
You are.
I am. I'm a millennial.
And you're about to turn.
I'm about to turn 40. Yeah. I have a friend who's 42. He was born in 1980, and he claims that he's a millennial.
Okay.
Although with him it's debatable. I don't know. He's skirting the very cusp of the Gen X threshold. But yeah, so I mean, so what are the things that people should be looking out, like women should be looking out for? What were those first symptoms for you?
I felt like for me it was I didn't feel like myself, and like it's hard to well, I think sometimes you don't know it until you know it. Almost like when people are like, oh, like you'll know when he's the one. And I was like, fuck yourself. Like, and then I found the one and I was like, oh yeah, you do know. Like, you know.
Interesting. Still looking.
Delilah.
But good to know. Yeah, she's the one. She's the feline cat. Yeah.
Well, I'm here to tell you that you'll know.
You just know.
You don't know like right away.
Yeah.
But like when you know, you know.
Interesting. You don't know right away. So it's not that like immediate, like love at first sight. That's only in movies. I mean, you would know.
Yes. Well, I'm watching the woman have love at first sight in movies. I'm always supporting the person who's experiencing love at first sight in the movie. But no, I don't believe in love at first sight.
No.
I mean, I believe in like want to have sex at first sight, but I don't know. How can you like really truly love someone until
That's until you like get to know them.
You can definitely want to fall in love with someone at first sight.
We learned recently, we had a breakup expert on the podcast and we learned about, she was sharing how we all want 10 out of 10 chemistry when we go on those initial dates, right? But that usually can be an indicator of familiarity more so than anything else. And sometimes that familiarity is like old patterns, right? That you know, like a chaotic home that we're seeing manifest in like the new person, which isn't necessarily like a good thing, right?
No.
If we're trying to break an old old habits, old patterns.
Yeah, of course. You like are drawn to something that's comfortable for you.
Yeah.
Like, did she talk at all about like past life shit? Because sometimes
are you into that?
I don't know if I'm into it, but sometimes I feel like there's a familiarity that cannot be explained.
Hmm.
So then I'm like, well, could it be that? Is that a thing? And we're all just like
Maybe.
meeting the same people over and over again.
I'm open to it. I'll tell you, I once got past life regressed, and I didn't actually get regressed. I was
It
just
didn't
didn't do
happen.
anything.
Maybe
Yeah.
you're fresh.
Maybe.
Maybe you're a
I'm a
fresh
new
soul.
soul. I feel like it sometimes.
You're like a brand new star.
I don't think anyone would describe me as an old soul, so
Oh,
I think
so you could be a new
a
soul.
new soul. Yeah.
There you go.
But I started human. That's a good thing.
Get it right
Don't you
the
typically
first
start
time.
like kind of low on the totem pole? Isn't that how it works?
Well, I don't know, unless like this is your first life as a human and maybe you already were flies and ants and stuff.
Fair.
And then now it's like your first human life.
Hmm.
So maybe you're going to get it right and then you don't have to. I mean, look, I don't know about this stuff, but
Interesting.
sometimes I wonder, like if I meet someone, I'm like, why do they feel so familiar?
Yeah.
But also sometimes people look like somebody you know. And so you have like a weird familiarity with them that maybe you shouldn't, but it's just because they look familiar.
Hmm. Interesting.
Anyway,
Holds water.
thank you.
I don't know.
That's my theory.
I don't know everything. So you just started feeling like not like yourself.
Oh, you were asking me about like some of your millennial listeners and like
Yeah.
so I would say that like I mean, yes, I'm here talking about my brand. So I think that a lot of this stuff, some of our products can totally work for women in their 30s. But I think that your hormones start to shift like anywhere in your 30s into your 40s. And I think like for someone who's younger, like in the millennial age group, I would say like start now to really recognize like how you feel on a day-to-day basis so that you can recognize when you feel different,
Yeah.
like everyone's into meditating and being in the moment and being mindful. And I would say like those things really help you as you start to age because you're like, there's something off about me. I feel off. And there's millions of stories about people that are like, I just didn't feel right. And I went to the doctor and he was like, no, you're fine. And now I'm dying of leukemia, but hopefully not dying. But I just listened to this book called Between Two Kingdoms about this woman and she was in college and she was really itchy. And she was just like so itchy.
Whoa.
I mean, like for 2 years, she was itching like till she bled on her legs, and then she was fatigued and she was so tired. But she was like starting her first job in her 20s, so she just thought, I'm fucking busy, man, and I'm like partying at night and working all day. And it turned out she had leukemia.
Wow.
But she was like saying to her doctor, like, I just feel off. Like, well, you need to rest. Like, you need to like not party so much. You need to not drink so much. I mean, she probably did need to cut back on some of those things. Don't we all? But yes, I think that like to start as like in your 30s is a great time to start to like slow down a tiny little bit and start to like notice like like the way you feel physically most days and like when you feel your best and why you feel your best. And then on the days when you start to do all those same things and you're starting to feel weird, you're starting to feel off, you're not sleeping that well, you're forgetting things, like maybe you're just feeling like really bloated, maybe you're not able to like lose weight as fast, like you just feel off. And sometimes it's really hard to describe how you feel, but you just know it. And it's really hard too because for some reason like people don't take women as seriously, and I don't know why, but you could go to a doctor and like, I just don't feel like myself. Well, what is it? I don't know. I just don't feel like myself. Like, well, you probably need to drink less coffee or something. Like, we don't always get listened to, I think. And it's especially hard when you have a hard time already describing. Like, I can't tell you what it is, but I know it's off. Like, okay, well, I can't help you then. Like, wouldn't it be great if a doctor was like, all right, well, why don't you start like making a food journal, making a sleep journal, like like noting your energy levels on a 1 to 10 scale, like starting to keep track of it that way, like keep track of your mood swings. What happened? Why did you get so mad? What happened? Why did you cry so hard? Like, is that normal for you to cry that hard if you like, drop your cup of coffee in the morning? Like, start to notice things like that. Like, doctors don't really have the time. I'm not going to say they don't want to, but they just don't really have the time these days.
Well, especially doctors that are like going through that are tethered to the healthcare system, like the health insurance system, right?
I mean, we're so screwed with healthcare, but we're also screwing our great doctors too. It's not fair to them either. I mean, they're getting like boned, like they're just having to see so many more patients, like they're cutting their time down, like, they're. I just feel bad sometimes when I think of like my doctor who I love. I mean, he doesn't complain to me about it, but I can only imagine.
Yeah.
And the healthcare industry is like a mess right now.
Why do you think? I mean, here's like the paradox is that women are the primary spenders on wellness, right? And we're now like, we're living longer. So a woman today, born today, say she lives to 100, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's like 60% of her life that she's going to be spending after the age of 40.
Yeah. And they just ignore, like they, meaning like these drug companies and like healthcare and wellness tends to sort of ignore us, you know? I mean, we do spend a lot of money on it. We care a lot about it. You know, we're entering into a time in our life where if we've chosen to have children, our kids are getting older, we have more free time, we have more time with our partners. We, in theory, you know, hopefully we've saved up a little bit of money. Like in theory, we would have time to go on those vacations, to like have date nights more often, to like take yoga class if that's what we always wanted to do, but never had time to, like go to therapy if that's something that's like been on the bucket list, you know, like, and yet like we're just not, I feel like we're kind of getting ignored. And, you know, another thing is, this is only my opinion. We're so impatient in America. We want things to work so quickly. Like we try something, it doesn't work right away. So we try another thing. We try another thing. Like people are more willing to get liposuction than to say, I'm going to spend $30,000 on a trainer or like whatever. I'm going to commit to 6 months of this workout routine and see what happens. Like I'm going to commit to changing one thing about my diet and see what happens. We want that fast thing. Like we'd rather do like a 5-day juice cleanse because we have a wedding next weekend to go to than to be like, oh, I have a wedding in 3 months. I'm going to work my ass off to lose like 5 pounds or 10 pounds in 3 months so that I can like look really good and wear this new dress to this wedding or whatever the case may be, you know?
Yeah, we want the easy fix.
We want the easy fix.
We want change, but we don't want to change.
No, we don't. Exactly.
It's a big problem.
And so we do all the quick fixes. So when we're looking at like some of these supplements and some of these tinctures, we have supplements and tinctures, but like things like that, you know, take a while to build up in your system, you know, like a healthy eating routine. Like you can't just start eating healthy one day and like say, I'm going to eat healthy every single day, every single meal. It's going to be like this forever. Like you really have to start like with little things and build up a routine and a habit for yourself. And so a lot of times vitamins and supplements, they take time to work in your system and we just like don't give anything the time anymore.
It's so true.
Yeah.
How did you deal with those early like doctor's appointments where you felt like they weren't listening to you? I mean, maybe they were like listening in the sense that they were paying attention, right? They had your focus for that 15 minutes, 20 minutes. But like, how did you deal with the feeling that they weren't actually hearing what it was that you were saying? Because I feel like that's probably very common. I experienced that with my mom. You know, people experience that, I think, very commonly today. But you're a woman, like you live in Hollywood, you have resources, right? Like if it's happening to you, what hope is there for the rest of us, right?
Well, I just found out today that a lot of women in this country don't even have gynecologists. Like they just have, if they even have a doctor, they just have one doctor. And I think it's really hard to get, like I said before, it's hard to get people to listen to you when you don't know what's wrong with you. And a lot of people just don't know what's wrong with them. But how I felt when people weren't listening to me is like, well, no one ever listens to me. Like no one ever took me like yeah, I have I have a career, I have great relationships, but like, you know, we still live in a society where men get more screen time, where men are taken more seriously, where men's opinions are the ones that we favor first. And so that is just kind of how I'm used to rolling. I think it's how a lot of women are used to rolling. So like it didn't shock me or surprise me. I mean, probably until it started happening with women doctors that I was like, wow, we're all just trained to not listen to each other.
Wow.
And
it's quite the insight.
It just makes you feel like really small and also crazy. Like it makes you feel crazy. Like when you're in a relationship with someone and you're like, why did you say you were like at his house when you came home from that direction and I'm confused? No, I didn't. Well, I walked around the block once, like, cause I was like trying, whatever. I don't know. Like
that's gaslighting, right? Isn't that the term?
I know. I mean, that's how sometimes you feel like when you're like, I feel like I'm going crazy. And then the people are like, no, you're fine. You're not. But like, no, I think I do feel really bad. Okay, well, can you tell me what it is? No, but it's different. It's off. Okay, well, like, I think maybe you just need to get more sleep. Maybe you're just working too hard. Like, yes, it's gaslighting. I feel like I've just said the same thing 5 times, but that's how I felt. So I didn't even register in the beginning that I'm not being taken seriously or listened to because I'm used to it.
Wow. Did you, I mean, ultimately, like, what did you end up doing? Like, was it discovering the compounds that you guys now integrate into the supplements? Was it, um,
Well, it was kind of all happening at the same time that I got involved with Wile. And I started taking Wile supplements like a year before I started legally working with the company. And so I
and
wanted to make sure I liked it. They worked, they were great,
wow.
they were helping. And because I didn't want to like go around talking about something that I didn't believe in.
Yeah, of course. Who wants to do that?
I mean, like, I have done that, but
No, I mean, yeah.
but I'm also not a part owner of those companies. So,
So, I mean, sometimes you just got to get that bag,
sometimes we've all done that. But
Take the paycheck.
yes.
No, but this is cool because you planted your flag and you're like, these helped me.
Yeah, they helped me. And then as we started to just talk to more people and start to talk about the product to more people and like places where they would carry our product and everything, like then it was starting to really feel like the women we were talking to were like, yes, yes, yes. And I was like telling this story, telling people why I was getting involved in this company. And the women I was talking to were all on board. They were like, we need this product. And everyone kind of on some level like mirrored my situation. They were like, yeah, people aren't taking me seriously, or yes, my doctor doesn't want to talk about it, or they just tried to put me on the pill, or they want me to go on like hormone replacement therapy, which hormone replacement therapy can be really great for some people. And we like to tell people like we would be your first stop before you would go there. Like we're like the beginning stages. Some people really hate hormone replacement therapy, and some people don't ever want to go on it. Some people are on it and love it. That's something between you and a doctor. You, just kidding.
Not me.
I don't see you taking it. Maybe when Delilah's of a certain age, you might want to
Consider HRT for her, for cats.
But yeah, that is something that would come later on, but we would be like your first stop before you would want to do something. I mean, we're natural and we're vegan and we're using like products that are already on the shelves of the store. We just like formulate them specifically for women's needs.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I know I was looking at some of the formulations you use, like ashwagandha and some of them.
Well, I just met a week ago the woman who makes our supplements, and I was like, okay, what's your favorite thing in the world? Like one thing, can't do without it. And she said ashwagandha.
That's cool.
That's her favorite.
There's like actual research on it. It's like an adaptogen. It's good for helping with stress and stuff.
She loves adaptogens, and that one's her favorite. I was like, okay, but like desert island. And she was like, ashwagandha.
Wow. I take it sometimes, ashwagandha.
Well, see, I would argue that you should take it every day because these things are cumulative. And so unless you start taking something for like, you're not going to see the great results unless you're on it for like 2 to 3 months. And then you'll really see like, because an adaptogen is teaching your body how to perform correctly. So it's not going to go in there and fix it. It's not like antibiotic or, like something that works quickly. Like, for example, a Xanax. That's super fun, but that's going to like get you through that flight. You know what I mean? But like taking ashwagandha for 3 months is going to make it so you don't need the Xanax on your airplane.
I love that analogy. So, I mean, Xanax is like, that's a crazy drug, but
crazy good.
Crazy, it's a good time. No, I will confess that when I discovered, so I very rarely take like any kind of medicine, but I used to have profound anxiety with like long distance flights.
Yeah.
Like flying from here to New York, fine. I'm used to that flight. But like if I had to go from here to say like Europe or something.
You have to go over an ocean.
Yeah. I would get profound anxiety, and I felt at a certain point that the benefits of taking like a little bit of Xanax, like a very low dose before one of those journeys outweighed any risks. I know the risks, chronic use of those drugs associated with dementia, like all kinds of nasty things. But Very occasional use. I'm grateful to have access to that.
I
That's why I'm
mean,
not like no stigma on drugs, right?
exactly. And that's why those drugs were, I mean, that's like the perfect use of something like that.
Yeah.
You know, you have an intense anxiety. You're not probably going to make it through your flight. You're going to make yourself crazy.
It's a
Like,
crazy drug though. When I take
really?
well, no, not necessarily in a bad way, but I feel like when I take it, discovering it has become it's created like a wormhole where I feel like I could travel anywhere with
That's
it.
great.
Yeah, which is crazy, awesome, but also
I wonder though, imagine
yeah,
if you were to take ashwagandha like
right.
every day, get on a real routine with it.
Yeah. No,
Like,
yeah.
I wonder if you would need it or as much of it
No, you're
on
right.
that long flight.
You're right. I mean, for me, it's like once every 2 years, like, whenever I have to take like one of those kinds of flights. But
Yeah.
so it's super, super not often. But I'm psyched that you guys use ashwagandha.
Yes.
That's dope. You guys have, if people want to check it out, it's wilewomen.com and you've been super generous. There's a code, I think it's max 20.
Yes.
20% off.
Yes.
That's dope.
I know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I get nothing out of it. So just thanks for extending
You
that.
could take a tincture.
Yeah.
You could take unworry or unanger or burnout relief.
Then nothing will happen. I'm a guy, so it's like no, I'm not gonna like start growing
You will
breasts.
be fine.
Okay, great.
I promise.
Okay.
You're not going to grow breasts.
I mean, had to check.
No, but those I honestly don't think you would grow breasts even if you took the supplement. But the tinctures are great. You could totally take those.
Cool. No,
Yes.
I'll check them out. Talk to me about wellness in Hollywood. Like,
Ugh.
is it why? Ugh.
I just feel like it's so like over. Well, what do you think about it? I mean, this is your jam.
I mean, well, there's a lot of weird trends and fads that are created. And,
That's the
yeah.
I think is the trend.
Also, talk to like body image pressure,
Yeah.
like the pressure to look a certain way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
That's got to be a thing.
But
And you are like what you are at the top like of the Hollywood food chain. Like,
well, yeah, yes and no. I mean, I think that like there's like like tradition like movie stars probably have to worry a lot more about it than like I'm more of a character actor, and so I'm allowed to look however I want. I'm just really vain. But I think that people people do love a fad, they love a trend, kind of back to like this impatience that I think that we all have. But when you think about it, like, yes, there's always some new thing that somebody's doing, right? But like, it kind of just goes back to like, I mean, like your book, like it's like just clean food, like actual clean, good eating. Like that's not trendy. That's how people used to eat. It was really the it was really like my mother's generation that fucked us because when women entered the workforce, they didn't have as much time to cook. And that's when we got all these like that's when like food companies were like, "Ooh, we could make like canned food. We could make boxes of food." Then women are coming home from work and they can still prepare a meal for their family.
wow, interesting.
But they're coming home from work, they don't have time for it. So they started to create a lot of processed food. And so we started to get all this processed food that now came into like my diet growing up, which as we know is sugar, which as we know, sugar is the devil, 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 and like the worst thing I guess you can probably eat. So
It's like the added sugar, I think, is the big problem,
I'm
right?
super into sugar, by the way. I ate a handful of Skittles before bed last night.
No, really?
Yes.
Whatever, all good. Good for the soul sometimes.
I just need them to be gone, and the only way
Taste
to get
the
rid
rainbow.
of them is I often do. But I mean, the sugar in the processed foods, the salt, the chemicals to break it down and keep it stored forever. Like I think that like kind of messed up us, like my generation.
A little bit.
I think a little bit.
Frozen dinners, fast foods, like they
Yeah.
all came about. You're right. 50s, 60s.
I know. And so now we find ways. Now I think our generation is trying to find ways to cook whole food quicker. So you've got your air fryers and your toaster ovens and like the George Foreman grill for a while was a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Like so we're like, okay, we know we have to eat healthy whole food, but we don't have time to do it. So how do we like all the meal planning stuff and like food prep is like very like hashtaggy, right? Like,
yeah, it's a big thing.
but I think these are great. I think these are great developments.
Yeah, I agree. You, we were looking, there was like some People magazine thing with you, and they quoted you as saying that self-care isn't just lighting candles and bath bombs.
No.
What is it? Tell me what self-care looks like to you.
I think,
Other than eating a relatively unprocessed diet plus Skittles.
right. I mean, plus Skittles. I think I would say right now, and it changes depending on like phases of my life, but I think self-care is having good boundaries. I think it is like oxygen mask on you first, like really, I mean, it's weird. It's like when I think about like moms who have little kids, it's like probably really hard to think about putting yourself first when you have like a little baby that needs something right away and like will die without it. So I get that. That aside, because I can hear my friends when they hear women say that, like, "Oh, really? I'm supposed to just put myself first?" I'm like, "That's not what I'm talking about." But I think that like having a plan for yourself, like having for me, it helps, I will say, to have a plan for myself for the week. So I don't like break things down by meal. I look more at my week and I look at my calendar and I think about like what are the holes in my calendar that I have to be really careful to not fill.
Hmm.
And even if that means I'm just like sitting on the sofa, like scrolling through my phone, it's like I tend to fill my day and I'm obsessed with being productive. And I need to be really careful about that. I need to really prioritize sleep and I need to really prioritize boundaries. And I need to prioritize making sure, because I'm an eater, that like I have, if not the food to eat, I have a plan for what I'm going to eat. And so like at work, when I'm working like I am right now all day, every day, except for today, on my TV show, like I have to be really careful about what I'm gonna eat when I get hungry. Cause I will just like sabotage my whole plan. I'll sabotage my energy level. I'll sabotage like my skin if I'm eating crap, like that kind of thing. So I really like to feel super prepared for my week in that way. Sometimes it even means like laying out my clothes the night before, which I never used to do, but that just makes my morning more relaxed. So then like just like happier throughout the day. I think I don't know. I don't know if that's an answer to your question about like what I think self-care means, but I think those little things, and it's different for everyone, and every phase of your life is different. So like if you do have a newborn infant in your house, like maybe your self-care is just like one glass of wine before bed, or like maybe your self-care is napping when your baby naps so that you're not going crazy, or maybe your self-care is dropping your laundry off at the dry cleaners to do fluff and fold just for 3 months so that that's like one thing you don't have to do. Like everyone's brand is different depending on where you are in your life.
Yeah, so well said. Couldn't agree more. What is wellness like on set? Like and the food situation there. I mean,
It's really weird with COVID now.
hmm.
That has changed a lot of things. Because it used to just be like food everywhere all the time. And you're like, ugh. How I dealt with that was it's gonna sound like a little like I don't know, Hollywoody, but I would just ask people, like there's PAs on set and I would ask them to bring me what I wanted, because for me, seeing a table full of like all my favorite junk food is kryptonite.
Hmm.
So I would be like, "Can you please get me an iced tea and a peanut butter and jelly sandwich?" So I don't even have to go and look at all the chips and all the cookies and all the candy and all the stuff that I love. Um, that I told myself when I was a grown up, I was gonna only eat candy all the time.
When you were a kid?
Well, it's funny, that's how I got back on the Skittles, because when COVID was, like, at its worst in the beginning, and I had, like, 3 masks on and gloves at the grocery store, and I was in the checkout line 6 feet apart from everyone, and I saw Skittles in the checkout line, and I was like, "You know what? Fuck it. Like, we're all gonna die." And I've denied myself my favorite candy for so long. And I remember being little and being like, when I'm grown up, I'm eating candy every day, and you can't stop me. And I'm like, I'm getting candy. I'm getting candy.
It's the end of the world.
The end of the world is ending.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna like go down just eating celery sticks? No. So I started with that, and then I'm totally addicted again. But So asking if look, not everyone is an actor on a movie set. You can't always just ask someone to grab you something healthy, but that has helped me on set. And then for lunch, again, it's different now with COVID. It used to be that we would sort of like walk through like a buffet line of food, And so I would always make sure I would start at the salad bar, which is always at the end, and I would take one plate and I would fill it with all the salad stuff. And then I would put like either like a carb on top or beans on top. And that was like my salad every day. I find for me eating the same thing every day just helps take all the thought out of it.
Yeah, it reduces like decision fatigue.
Yeah, decision fatigue. Plus, like, I know I can make this. This is the healthy thing I eat every day.
Yeah, it's like why Steve Jobs wore the same thing every day for the same purpose.
Jealous. Just don't have to think about it.
I know to be able to wear this. I pretty much do wear the same thing every day. I get
I think like boys can get away with it.
more so than girls.
I mean,
probably.
I could. I basically wear button downs every day, or a white T-shirt. Either wear a button down or a white.
I get comments like, man. I mean, I wear this shirt a fair amount.
What's up, Mark Zuckerberg?
Try not to be Mark Zuckerberg. Anything even remotely.
He's pretty smart and successful. I mean,
he's a lizard.
Okay.
He's a reptile. Just kidding. Sorry, Mark. No, but I think not everybody has a PA, as you mentioned, but that is a great insight, right? To curate your food environment and to minimize your exposure to foods that trigger you, right? I think that's a very healthy way to approach modern, hyper palatable foods that we are prone to overindulging on, right? Like some would argue that the healthiest relationship with food is to be able to like see those foods and to eat a little bit here and there. But I think that the problem with those foods is that they're everywhere today.
Yeah.
They're not designed to be consumed in moderation. And so to a certain degree, you have to kind of like keep, out of sight, out of mind.
Well, also like usually most people, I hope, have a fun night planned one night a week. Like hopefully you're going out to dinner with friends or a partner or something, like at least one night a week. So like that's the night I look forward to. Like I make sure to choose a restaurant I'm really excited about. I will start looking, and my friends will tell you this. I'll start looking at the menu of a restaurant for like my Saturday night double date on like Tuesday. And I start like obsessing over like what I'm going to order. Like, am I going to start with this cocktail? And then I'm going to have like this salad and we'll get this appetizer for the table. And then I'm either going to have like this entree or that entree. Like I get so excited about it.
I love that.
So then like the rest of the week, I'm like, this isn't that meal.
Right.
This isn't that meal.
Right. You've got that to like look forward to.
Yeah.
Also, there's you get more like happiness for your buck when you have something to anticipate. So the fact that you like push it out and then you have it to look forward to and you're thinking about that meal the whole that's a great strategy to increase happiness.
I started doing it when I stopped eating meat because I would have like lunch dates and stuff at restaurants and meetings and things at restaurants, and I didn't want to like spend an hour like on the menu or like asking the waiter or waitress like a million questions. If I was like at a work meeting. So I would like start looking at the menus online, the day before, and then like pick what I'm going to eat. So I'm like ready to go. But then I just started doing it like for all my social outings too, because it's way more fun. And like you said, it does give me something to look forward to. And I'm sort of like looking at like the pasta on the line at work at my like work lunch and being like, it's not the pasta I'm eating on Saturday night, so I'm not going to have that. But I also have a friend who doesn't eat when she's stressed out and when she's tired and when she's busy. And her hair started falling out. And so then she had to like go to the doctor and figure that out. And her doctor's like, oh, you need to eat food.
Wow.
So some people have that. And some people like actually like, so for her, she needs to plan out. I'm like planning like what I'm not going to eat. She needs to plan like to eat. So she will set alarms on her telephone to be like, okay, I need to make sure I like have breakfast today.
Wow.
I'm going to like treat myself like to get scrambled eggs at this restaurant that I love.
Wow.
I'm a weirdo, probably jealous of that problem. But like for her, I mean, and just not everyone is an eater. Some people are that. And so I always like to remember, right, totally different. So for her, she needs to remind herself like, okay, I'm eating breakfast. Today I'm going to have this for breakfast and this for lunch and this for dinner at these times. And that's how she's managing it. And her hair grew back.
Her hair grew back.
Totally.
Amazing.
It's been a year and a half. She has hair again.
Wow. I'm happy for her.
Turns out we need nutrients.
Turns out food is a thing that we need.
Yeah. I mean, food should be the medicine, right? Like we should look to food to give us the medicine that we need and to train our body to function properly and our organs. And something else someone told me once was in yoga, like a yoga teacher I had once a long time ago. She was like, sit up straight when you're eating. You don't want to smash all your organs as your food's going down there and it's just getting like jammed in there. And I'm like, ugh. And that image is like always in my head now when I'm eating a meal, like trying to sit up straight because
I feel
I'm like,
that.
the idea of like all your organs just getting smashed together and then you're just like trying to get food in your food hole and it's just like getting stuck because you're smashing it all together and it's not like lengthening and it's not getting digested properly and
That's
coming out the way I want it to, which is very important.
No, that's super important too. People don't like to talk about it, but
no. When I talk with I was telling you about Daphne Yavich in the beginning, and she's like, well, most people who are into nutrition and health care about
digestion.
Number 2, digestion.
It's important. Number 2s.
Yes.
It's important. No, we like in my house, I have like a squatty potty on every toilet. Like it's.
I know.
It's probably a weird thing to see for the uninitiated. Actually, somebody once came over to my house and asked me if I had a toddler because it looks like which I don't.
I just bought these wooden, so cheap, but I bought these wooden waste baskets at Target.
To use as a squatty potty?
Very cute, and I just grab it and that's what I use.
They're great. There was I was once living in this rental in.
How awful for you.
How awful. No, but I'll tell. Well, what was the rental was built probably in like the 50s or 60s, and so it had this very like antique like toilet that was like very low to the ground.
Oh.
And those are the best, like a low to the ground toilet.
Yes.
But then at some point while I was living there, they voluntarily like replaced the toilet. Like my toilet wasn't broken, but they replaced it and they put one of these new like American Disabilities Act compliant toilets in its place, which is like I think the law is it has to be like 17 to 18 or more inches high. So it's a very high toilet.
Oh.
And I didn't know how valuable it is to
have a low toilet.
Have a low toilet. And it screwed up my digestion for months until I figured out what it was.
That's weird.
Yeah.
But it makes sense. But also, like, that's good that they put a better toilet in. But yes, then you have to get the squatty potty things everywhere.
Yeah.
I would rather have a higher toilet because my knees hurt.
Oh.
Someday I'm going to get my knees fixed.
Oh, man.
That was my goal for 2020 was to figure out my knees. But then there was a pandemic.
Huh.
So I didn't yet, but I'm totally going to.
We got to figure out your knees.
I know. I'm too young to have hurty knees.
No, yeah, absolutely. Wow. No, I mean, good digestion is important. Sitting up, the posture thing, that's a great tip.
It's just an image in my head now, and I have to, like, when I'm eating.
Yeah, you don't want to scrunch your...
all up into your... Right. And those organs, they're, like, twisty, curvy.
Yeah.
It's not like things just...
It's not a straight tube.
We need to help them as much as we can.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned you do yoga.
I don't really anymore, but I used to. I haven't found a class I really love in a while. So I do a couple different exercises. We have a Peloton. I bought that for my husband a couple years ago, and he had like a foot injury and he couldn't run, and then he loved it, and we both love it. I do this workout called LEK Fit, which is like a rebounder workout. So I have like one of those mini trampolines, and I do videos that Lauren Kleban, she invented this workout routine, and it's really super fun.
Wow.
And then we also have a Form, which is a fitness device that is like...
it's PHORM or something?
It's FORME.
Oh, FORME.
Yeah. It's like...
That's cool.
I don't like to say it's like a mirror because there's a thing called the mirror.
Got it. But it's like, it looks like a huge iPhone.
It's giant iPhone.
Yeah.
And you just follow along with a trainer on that. Like there's videos on it. They're about to start live one-on-one training you can do through that. But it's actually really awesome because it's called Form. But you can see your forms. You can really see like how, I've always been a big fan of working out at home even before COVID because I just didn't have time to go to class, and also I'm cheap and classes are expensive. But this, but then you like really can see that you're doing the right thing and you're doing it with the right form. So you're like not risking injury as much. And they're always like, make sure your knee doesn't go over your toe.
Yeah.
You can actually see it.
That's dope.
Because not many of us have a whole gym in our house with a wall of mirrors that we can watch ourselves.
There's a guy on Instagram. His name is, the Instagram handle, it's knees over toes guy.
And
You
he
might want to look
says
into him because you've
that
got
it's
knee
okay?
issues. He thinks that it's actually beneficial. It's actually a smart thing to do to allow your knees to go over your toes, but not with the super heavy weight. Like not if
Oh.
you're like squatting, and trying to like do a PR with your squat, but to deliberately strengthen the full,
Really?
like your knees through the full range
I'm
of
gonna
motion.
have to look them up.
I'll show you offline.
I used to do Bikram yoga, and they were always like, they always talked about locking your knees, which many people are like, never lock your knees. But Bikram yoga philosophy was that you do lock your knees because you want to like squeeze your knees, and then when you unsqueeze them, the blood flows into them. And well, it's that like blood flow into your knee that's really important to heal it. So I don't know, maybe no blood's flowing into my knees.
Maybe, who knows? But this knee, I'll share his stuff with you. It's like knees over toes guy. I'm sure like people listening have heard of him. He's like got a pretty big Instagram account. But yeah, that's his whole thing. Like healing the knee through this like full range of motion.
I just started acupuncture.
Has it helped?
I haven't been able to do it regularly enough, but it helps like for a few days after I do it. But I used to be a ballet dancer, and then I ran some marathons, so I think I just jacked them up.
You're just beating them up.
Yeah, I don't think I took very good care of them in my youth. So you millennials and Gen Zs listening to this, take care of your knees.
Take care of your knees and your back.
Oh my God, my back hurts too.
Oh, man.
But my husband's convinced because he heard on Howard Stern about some book about back pain. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where it's actually all emotional.
Yes, I've heard that.
Yeah, so he's obsessed with this book.
I have back pain too sometimes. I don't think it's emotional.
I mean, then I've been very emotional for the last year and a half because my back's been hurting for a really long time.
You know what's helped my back a lot is boxing. You ever box?
What?
Yeah.
How?
It's super core intensive. Getting your core as strong as possible.
But I would think like the motion that like hitting the bag would.
You'd think. That's what I thought going into it. But it's been one of the things that's helped a lot. I had pretty significant low back.
What was the problem? Was it ever diagnosed as anything?
It's the thing about. So, I mean, I had like, they diagnosed a bulging disc between L5, S1, but a lot of people have bulging discs and they don't have pain. So it's not clear whether the pain is like what's called discogenic pain, that it's like coming from that bulge. It's one of these things sort of similar to what you were, it's hard to identify and describe the pain when it's like in your back. There's a bajillion little muscles back there.
Yeah.
And, it's very hard. Even doctors are in the dark. So it's a difficult thing. So I just learned to like live with it, and it's gotten better just due to time itself. But I feel like the healing has accelerated.
Because you've gotten your core stronger.
Yeah, because I've gotten my core stronger, and boxing is very core intensive.
Huh.
So
I would love to box. I don't see myself ever doing it.
Ever doing it.
I like watching boxing.
Yeah, it's cool.
I live near Wildcard Boxing Gym.
Oh, cool.
Which is Freddie Roach's gym, which I think it's still his.
That's a big, famous, legendary.
I know. I used to see Manny Pacquiao jogging in my neighborhood. He would rent a house in my neighborhood, or maybe he owned it. I don't know. But when he would train with Freddie Roach, like I'd always see him jogging around. Like,
wow.
No way.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a thing. But I mean, even if you don't box, like do core stuff.
Core stuff.
Yeah. I know.
Why is it so hard, and why does it take so long?
I don't know. It's,
Are you pro plank?
I'm not pro plank, but I do it.
Are you pro sit-ups?
I don't do sit-ups because I feel like I do crunches. Sit-ups are like all the way up. Those I feel like will aggravate my back. But planks have helped. I try to keep my planks dynamic, like you do a plank, but then you're like lifting your one leg at a time to like add some instability and also strengthen your glutes, or like the planks where you go from your elbows to your hands and then back to your elbows. Like I think those are. Or
like your hip, like dipping your hips down.
Yeah.
Do you do that one?
I do those. Yeah.
Suck.
I know.
It's so hard.
It's not easy.
I was saying that the form that I have, like my whole plank life, I've been like, I'm probably like good at planks. And then I did it like the sideways in the form mirror and was like, Oh my God. My hips are not at all where they need to be. Like I've been cheating myself out of proper plank form for years.
Wow.
So I was really happy that I actually wait. Now they're way harder.
No, working out in front of a mirror, it's not about vanity. It's super important.
It's literally about form and about like getting the most out of your workout. Because think of like all the planks I've been doing wrong for so long, then I could have been like, maybe I would not have back pain right now.
Interesting.
Maybe I won't now that I know how low my hips have to be.
It's so much, but you know what? That we don't appreciate that which is easily obtained. You know, I think it's the journey.
Exactly. I was basically in a half downward dog. And like
in your planks.
And I was like, this is so hard. And then I saw it, I like lowered my hips. I was like, oh my gosh, I know.
Oh man.
That's okay.
Well, I'm glad that your planks from here on out.
They will be maybe more effective.
More effective.
Yes.
And pristine. This was really fun. Loved getting to chat with you. Yeah. People should definitely check out your brand, Wile.
Yes. Check out Wile.
WileWomen.com. Max 20 for 20% off.
Don't take no for an answer from your doctor. Here's your takeaways.
Yeah. I love that. Keep searching.
Keep searching and figure out what self-care means to you.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And it can change.
And it can change. Because self-care today for you probably looks a lot different than it did 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
Yeah, a lot different. My needs are very different. I've learned that I really need to sleep. So that's what I'm working on right now, is figuring out how to sleep.
Do you have like a sleep formula? Or is that...
Well...
Or did I just give you an idea for a new SKU?
Well, we are working on that. But I'm trying a lot of different things. But I think... mostly, unfortunately, I hate to say this to your listeners, but it's the booze. It's the booze that keeps you up at night. The older you get,
man,
you'll hear it'll. You'll know what I'm talking about.
Are you just like a one glass of wine kind of girl, like before bed, or what is it?
I have like drinking nights now.
Oh, so it's not. So you don't. Okay.
Because I can't sleep.
Got it.
So
with alcohol.
Yeah.
You can't sleep with alcohol. It keeps you from sleeping. Got it. That makes sense.
I mean, I fall asleep real fast.
But it messes up your sleep quality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the blood sugar
100%.
thing. So then I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like,
yeah, it's bad.
Yep.
Hey, if you like that video, you need to check out this one here, and I'll see you there.
I'm weight loss resistant. I've tried everything. I start thinking about thyroid hormones. I start thinking about leptin and ghrelin. What's their appetite doing? Are they ever satiated? Do they have so much adipose tissue that the leptin signaling in their body is so dysregulated, their brain doesn't know that they're full?